Around August of 1968, I went with the devotees, Malati Shyamasundar, Mukunda, Janaki, Gurudev, and Jamuna. They were going to Montreal to see Srila Prabhupada. They were going to go on to London to start the temple, and I was going to go on to Boston to join Jadavani and Pete. So in Montreal, Srila Prabhupada gave them instructions what he wanted them to do with Sankirtan, how to perform the kirtan, like that. That time I met my future husband, Vaikuntanath. Being very young, I was 17 years old, and I was very confused at that time. So I wanted to speak to Srila Prabhupada about this. So I went into his room in Montreal, and I told him that I was attracted to Vaikuntanath. And I assumed that Srila Prabhupada would preach to me to, get me out of my Maya. And Srila Prabhupada said, oh, he said, so you want to get married? And I thought, that thought hadn't really occurred to me. But since Srila Prabhupada suggested it, I said, okay. So then he said, I would speak to him. So Vaikuntanath was in New York at the time, very briefly. And then he came back to Montreal, and Prabhupada called him into his room and asked him if he would like to get married to me. And he agreed. So basically Srila Prabhupada arranged our marriage. And Prabhupada told me that after I finished high school, when I was 18, he would perform the wedding. In India, he said, girls get married at the age of 12. But in this country, wait until they're later. And he said the marriage will be very pomp. He said it would be a very nice wedding. So the next year, 1969, Srila Prabhupada came to Boston in May, and I had finished high school. I was almost finished high school, and I thought, okay, this is it. And so Prabhupada performed the wedding ceremony. There was me and Vaikuntanath, Janava and Nanakishore, Rukmini and Bharadwaj. And this is the first time a Vedic wedding had been performed in Boston. So there was some newspaper reporters, in fact 2 newspapers, who reported on this occasion. And Srila Prabhupada performed the wedding ceremony, and after the wedding, Prabhupada says to me, so Sardiya, now you are happy? And then I remember we gave him a plate of prasadam, a lot of prasadam. And Prabhupada sitting on the Vyasa sign, and he looks down and he says, but I'm not God. I cannot eat so much, in regard to the prasadam. And, I must not avoid this. During the fire sacrifice, Prabhupada was talking about how the woman should be covered from head to toe. Even the sun should not see her. And he said, and they should not wear miniskirts. And everyone laughed. And I knew that was for me, because when I first became a devotee, I used to come to the temple in miniskirts. And so the next morning, we got to go on a walk with Prabhupada, just me and Vaikuntanath and maybe one other devotee. And Prabhupada says to me, so you are no longer Miss Sardiya, now you are Mrs. Sardiya. So that was very sweet of him.
Kartikeya Swami's mother had cancer and was passing away. And he went to be with her. And as she was taking her last breath, she looked up at him and said, is your Krishna with me now? She died. And Prabhupada said when he heard this, he was just so grateful and so loving with Kartikeya. He said, you have saved your mother. He said, your devotion, even though his mother was not favorable before that, her last words were, is your Krishna here now? And Prabhupada said, your mother has gone back to Godhead because of you.
there was another pastime where Prabhupada was sitting on the Vyasasan in Atlanta, and we were very close to him right there, and he was given a mridanga to play. Prabhupada was playing mridanga. So he asked the devotees, you know that song, Parama Karuna? And the devotees can learn, yes, Prabhupada. And they sing along. So Prabhupada started, he said this beat that no one knew, and I think only now Kardama Muni is the only one who can sing it like that Prabhupada did. And he would sing Parama Karuna, and then he said, and then you follow, and no one could follow. No one knew the words, no one everything, and then Prabhupada could sing like no one knew it. There was 100 devotees there, but no one knew it, you know. So Prabhupada would sing through it, and then says, now you're ready to follow? He said, yes, everyone's ready to follow. I said, you know, and so people were kind of ready to try to follow with it. And so Prabhupada were thinking he's ready to play, so Prabhupada sits up there and tells them to play the tape. And so Prabhupada's sitting on the Vyasasan and this tape's playing Parama Karuna. And that was like kind of a first for us, because Prabhupada's there and he's playing his tape now. And I'm supposed to follow after the tape. And then at that point he said, so is there any difference between my tape and he's saying? So he let us know that, you know, he's in his tape as much as he's, you know, speaking to us personally. So we can take great solace that his tapes have been recorded, you know, for prosperity and austerity, saying that if we just listen to his tapes now, even 20 years later, that they're non-different than Prabhupada speaking at the time. So when he spoke Bhagavatam class, or when he gave his darshans, he was speaking to millions of people through all different generations, so we get a chance to hear these things. So no other acharya in our system had such a great opportunity to speak to unlimited numbers of people for an unlimited period of time.
What actually convinced me of Prabhupada is whatever I asked, he could give a cogent, satisfying answer. There was never any doubt that Prabhupada understood the philosophy, and there was a question, there were some things that I couldn't understand yet. There's a process of understanding it. And Prabhupada never tried to force understanding down my throat, but he made it clear to me that there's a process. He said, you follow these boys and girls like they're doing for 6 months, then you'll understand also. And he made the point to me that there's a process of understanding. I just can't walk in off the street, you know, with no regulative principles and understand everything. So Prabhupada was very patient about that. And he was very confident that if you want to, it's your choice, you follow this process, you can also experience what they're experiencing and be happy.
One time we were in Bombay, and it was one of those times where, not by any qualification, but just by that blessing of Krishna and Guru, you get a little taste of what transcendental energy really is. We went to a village and I set up a table, and many of the elder women got really into it. They were getting flowers and they were really in a worshipful mood. So Prabhupada was sitting on the Vyasasan and we had the kirtan and I was doing the pujari work, and I really felt like I was serving Krishna. I could feel the love in the offering. Generally it was done in a good mood, and there was a limit on the consciousness. And this one time Prabhupada opened the lid, and the arti went on for close to an hour. And as I was offering the different items, I was actually feeling it. I was feeling the connection with Krishna and Radha. And as I was fanning, I remember getting chills in my body that, you know, it was ecstatic. And I knew it was a gift. And as I turned around to fan Prabhupada, he was smiling. He was right watching me, and he was smiling very big. And after the arti was over and the prayers had been said, I took the water and the flour over to him, and I was still feeling this. And I offered him the flour and I sprinkled the water on his head, and he looked up at me and he said, "Thank you so much." And I melted. I hit the floor. I started crying. It was a wonderful gift of, this is what it's like to serve Krishna. Now work for it.
Prabhupada came from London and was talking about the beautiful deity worship in London. And this is Boston of 1969. So then he looked back behind and he looked at the big Jagannath deities. And he said, who had made these nice deity clothes? And someone said, Saradiya. So Prabhupada said, thank you very much. And then he threw back his head and he started laughing. Is Saradiya still fighting with her husband? And everyone laughed. And he said, don't fight with your husband. He's a good boy. Anyone who comes to Krishna consciousness is good. And I should also mention that the temple was jam-packed. Must have been over 100 devotees at the time. So, needless to say, I was embarrassed, but also pleased to be noticed by Srila Prabhupada.